Hello fellow humans, my name is Edelbrack Smith and this is a review of Panzer Dragoon, a remake of the 1995 Sega Saturn classic, now on Switch and Stadia. For the purposes of this review, I played the game on Stadia, both on the Chrome web browser and on my Pixel 4. The game is a Star Fox, or Rogue Squadron for my Star Wars fans out there, on-rails shooter. You have limited movement of your dragon on the screen, and in the default control scheme, your dragon will follow the aiming reticle. There's an option for independent movement, but it wasn't in the original and it really isn't necessary here. Still, it's a nice to have, I guess. The unique thing about Panzer Dragoon was its 360-degree camera, meaning you could shoot at enemies on the sides and even behind you. The downside is that you have less control of your dragon while doing this. In 1995, this was an amazing feature that really added to the game. In 2020, it's fine, but it's not going to carry the game by itself by any stretch. And that's kind of the problem with this remake. The stuff that really holds it back isn't the stuff that was introduced by Megapixel Studios, the team that made the remake. Instead, for me, the game itself just doesn't hold up very well. The combat is basic by today's standards, though it's still fun. There aren't any cool off-the-wall stuff like roping up an AT-AT walker or anything like that, but there are some pretty unique fights. One of the best was when you're flying through a series of tech-based tunnels and ultimately fighting a winged robot. You've got to destroy his wings to take him out, and it was one of my favorite fights in the game. Not that there are that many to choose from, honestly. Panzer Dragoon, both the original and the remake, have 6 levels and an end boss. There is a 7th level, episode 0, if you enter a cheat code on the main menu. This is a wave-based horde mode where your health is constantly draining and you must fight tooth and nail to remain alive. It sounds cooler than it is, but it's a nice addition for anyone who ends up loving the combat of the game, I guess. Each level is very short, and in total it took me around an hour and 20 minutes to beat everything the game had to offer on normal mode, a mode which turned out to be easier than the original Panzer Dragoon. You see, I hadn't played the original since 1995, and after being, well, I guess a little disappointed in the remake, I wanted to find out if the problems were with the remake itself or from the original, and it turns out it was kind of both. The original game is criminally short. We're not even talking Portal territory here. Does the story carry the game then? Not even the tiniest bit. It's honestly garbage. In the beginning, you see 2 Dragon Riders fighting. One is killed, and as he dies, he mind melds with you somehow and tells you to follow the other Dragon Rider to stop him, and you proceed to do just that for some unknown reason. Do you know this guy? Are you a member of an oppressed society and the other Dragon Rider is somehow clearly a member of the oppressive caste? What's the backstory? What's the current story? Who are you? What do you want? Who are the bad guys and why are they bad? None of this is ever answered or even remotely addressed. The few cutscenes in the game are just radio of the enemy commander ordering his men to attack you with no context. Now this is a small spoiler here. Not that it matters with this, I guess you'd call it a story, but skip ahead to the timestamp in the video if you don't want to hear it anyway. When you get to the final boss, it's the Dragon Rider inside a giant dragon shell. Once you beat him, the Dragon Rider flies up to you, looks you in the eyes, and then proceeds to just belly flop into the ocean and die for no apparent reason. I mean, I guess he was wounded during the fight, but give some indication of that. Hell, have our character shoot him point blank or have some small dialogue where it's obvious he's mortally wounded. I expected a final boss fight, and this guy just kills himself for no reason. Well, that covers my complaints with the base game, and if Panzer Dragoon fans haven't decided to eat my liver with some fava beans, then it's going to be a pleasant surprise. The remake mostly keeps things as close to the original as possible, which is a blessing and a curse. It doesn't add any new modes that would add to the playtime. It doesn't even have a local or online leaderboard high score system. That would have at least allowed fans to play to improve and climb the leaderboards, especially if they kept Stadia players separate to prevent the cheaters from topping the leaderboards like they do in so many games. Well, we don't have to worry about that since it doesn't exist, I guess. The stuff the remake does add or change is a mixed bag. Take the first level. This is what it looks like in the original game. It's empty, forlorn. There may have been something here once, but now it's just some ruins and a memory. There's an eerie, beautiful look to the water and the reflections. In the remake, on the other hand, they've added a lot more to the ruins. You can clearly see that a civilization lived here once, but the ruins look fairly pristine and fairly generic fantasy, honestly. Plus, the intense reflections are gone. It's not a deal breaker, but by making certain things more detailed, it actually retracts from the beauty that your mind had added to the minimalist graphics of the original. Think something like Silent Hill. If you remove the fog that hides everything, yes, technically you're making the draw distance better, but you're actually hurting the experience overall. It's a weird conundrum. Now that wouldn't be an issue if the new graphics were stunning, just jaw-droppingly gorgeous. But they aren't. They're decent indie game graphics, and there's nothing to really complain about with them. They're just nothing super impressive. Now this sounds nitpicky, and maybe it is. Well, let's look at another example for the other hand. In this level, in the original game, it's hard to even tell what this is supposed to be. Some sort of a base with cannons, I guess. Could be a small outpost, could be a bigger base, we're not really sure. In the remake, you can kind of tell what's going on easier. There are pumps for what look like oil that you can destroy, there are cannons, but the base is made entirely from rusted, corrugated metal sheets. It looks like a homeless camp that got militarized. Are these the same people as the bad guys who run the super pristine ships that are attacking you? Are they a sub-faction? Slaves forced to drill oil? Well, I've got no idea. So the graphics are a mixed bag. In some places they detract, but in others they do improve. And that's the story of this remake. They've made some very slight adjustments and improvements to the original game, and they've made some small missteps that have hurt the experience just a tad. But overall, it's the game you remember from 1995. And for me, there's just not enough value there. As a free Stadia Pro game, it's a no-brainer. Go download it right now and give it an hour of your life and then probably never play it again. For the Switch price of $24.99, assuming that's the price the Stadia version will be if it ever does leave Pro, it's honestly just not worth that. If there was a massive sale, something closer to $5, sure, maybe, but nowhere near full price, not unless you want to support the devs so they can eventually remake Panzer Dragoon Orta, which they do plan to do at some point. Give the game a shot if you already have Pro. Otherwise, probably give it a pass. Like this video whether you liked it or not, and hit subscribe button so that you don't miss out on news, reviews, and all things cloud gaming. Smith, signing off.